Hi everybody, if you don't know me already, my name is Kaylee. I am a gut health nutrition coach, so I help people to overcome their chronic gut and digestive issues at the root using the principles of ancestral nutrition as well as some other holistic health principles. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 7 things you can do to relieve constipation immediately, or at least very close to immediately. So before I get into these tips, I do want to mention that it's really important to address the root cause of your constipation and to have a long-term approach to healing this. And I'm going to make a video that I will share next week that goes all into that, so make sure you look out for that video. But I just want to mention that that is absolutely key for healing. But when you are on that long-term approach, when you are addressing the root causes, it doesn't always fix absolutely immediately, and it can be really helpful to have some strategies to pull out of your back pocket when constipation is flaring up on your journey, or you just really want that relief. So that's what these tips are for. They are for that immediate relief, but note they are not a long-term solution. You can't rely on these long-term, but they can help you as you are fixing the long-term solution or long-term root causes and going about that approach. So anyway, I have 7 things that I can share with you on this. So the first one I'm going to talk about is coffee enemas. So it doesn't have to be a coffee enema, but I just find these to be a very effective one. You can also use a water enema, or you can do a tea enema. So those are some things. You can also do a colonic, which is where you actually go to a place and they kind of basically do an enema for you. Which is probably something that not everybody wants to do, but if it is something that you're comfortable with, that can be very helpful. But yeah, you can do an enema at home. I have instructions in an article on how to do one, so I will link that below so you can check that out if you are interested in this. But basically, an enema, if you don't know already, it's when you have a bucket with an enema solution, so I recommend using coffee a lot of the time. And then it has a long flexible tube that you insert into your anus, and then you slowly release the liquid into your colon, and it goes all up in there. You hold the enema for about 15 minutes to let it basically kind of soften any stuck stools in there. And then you release it into the toilet, so you are flushing out your colon. So this is obviously very helpful because it is physically removing the blockage of constipation. So this is a really nice one to use from time to time if you're comfortable with it. Obviously, I know that some people this idea sounds like horrifying to and they don't want to do. So if that's you, stick around to listen to the other tips because I have lots of other tips for you. But this one is just very nice because it is cleansing, it is removing those blockages. If you have some kind of root cause that is causing things to back up, it flushes everything out. It's very nice. It's immediately relieving. So as soon as you're done with the constipation, you're gonna have a bowel movement pretty much, but it's going to be runny with the enema solution. But essentially you do get that immediate relief. Also, if they're only used on occasion, they won't cause dependence like laxatives will. Now, if you are using enemas like every day, every other day, if you're using them very frequently, this can cause dependence because it can weaken your bowels because they're not used to using the muscles they need to push out your bowel movement. So it is something you want to keep to only about once a week, maybe twice a week, and you definitely want to decrease that with time, but it's just a very effective tool you can use. So the second one I have is laxatives, but I want to specify I'm talking about more natural laxatives, so not like medical grade laxatives. Those are best to avoid. And there'll be a few caveats with this one because it's not a good long-term approach and it's not a good thing to use very often. So yeah, I'll get into that in a second. But let's see. Okay, so one I have is Senna. Now this is something that you probably don't want to use more than about once a month, maybe twice a month, and you don't want to use it for the long run because it's an herb that basically irritates your bowel lining, and that's what pushes a bowel movement out. So it's very effective, but it can be damaging if you use it in the long run. So if you're going to use Senna, you always want it to be with other herbs. So you can make a tea yourself, and this tea would be made of 1 teaspoon up to 1 tablespoon of powdered senna. the more you use, the more effective it'll be, pretty much. And then you want to use about 2 grams of fennel seeds, 2 grams of ginger. That can be powdered ginger, or that can be ginger root. It can be fresh or dry. It doesn't really matter. And 16 ounces of water. And just put that all in a pot, bring it to a boil, let it sit for a few minutes and strain it into a mug, and then you drink that. And you're going to want to have that at night to stimulate a bowel movement for the next morning. But yeah, like I said, this is not something to use often. So another thing with Senna is you can buy a tea that's called Smooth Move, and it's by Traditional Medicinals. So that contains Senna as well, and also contains some other herbs to help balance that out, to help with digestion, and just to help make it a little less intense on your body. So that is another option you can use. Also, Cellcore makes a bowel mover supplement that I know has Senna in it as well, and that also has some other herbs. So that is a pretty effective bowel mover. Essentially, it softens your stools and helps to move them out quicker. Again, that's something that you don't want to use very often, but you can use it from time to time. So another thing you can do is you can make a bowel moving herb formula. Now, this is not going to be as strong as the Senna, but you can use it more frequently. You still don't want to use it super frequently because you can become dependent on it. You can become dependent on the Senna too. But if used occasionally, this is all right as well. So this one, it depends where you're at. If you're using it like 3 times a month or something, or once a week, that could be okay for now, but you definitely want to work towards coming off of it. But basically, so this bowel moving herb formula is, you're going to make kind of a batch, and then you're going to use a little bit at a time. So first I'm going to give you the instructions for kind of the batch of making it. So you want to do 1 part, so however much you're going to make. So you can use like a tablespoon or a 1/4 cup, maybe not a 1/4 cup, that's probably a lot, like 1 or 2 tablespoons of a softening agent. So this is to soften your bowel movement. So you can use slippery elm, you can use licorice, or you can use sarsaparilla. And then you want to do 1 part of a motility agent. So this is going to help move those bowel movements along. It's going to help stimulate your bowels to contract more and do peristalsis that helps move your bowel movements along. So you can use Cascara Sangrata, I always say that one wrong, or Triphala. Both of those work. So 1 part of the softening, 1 part motility, and then 1 part of a digestive supporting herb, and that's going to be ginger. So you can use powdered of all of these herbs. So you mix those all together in a jar, mix them super well, and you're going to take two teaspoons of that and mix it in a little bit of warm water. It doesn't really matter how much, the water's just to help you get it down. So you're going to mix it in that, and you're going to drink it at night. So you want to drink it before bed and away from your meal, so a little while after dinner. And this will help to stimulate a bowel movement in the morning. And at the same time that you take this bowel moving supplement, you're also going to want to take a bulking agent separately. Now, if you know that you get way too bulky of stools already, you can decrease this amount, or you can try skipping it altogether, because sometimes with constipation we already have too much bulk and this can be too much. So experiment with this part. But basically the bulking agent is separate. You take 1 tablespoon of either ground flax seeds or ground psyllium seeds in warm water, same thing, before bed, away from dinner. So you can just make a little mug of each one and take each one, and that'll help to stimulate a bowel movement in the morning. Okay, so other laxatives you can use. So these 2 are a little bit more mild. So you can use magnesium. There are lots of different types of magnesium, so you can experiment to see which one works best for you. It kind of seems to vary person to person. You can also use the Magnesium Calm supplement. That one can help with bowel movements as well for some people, not everybody. So that's one thing. I didn't mention this earlier, but I want to mention this. Everybody is different. So some of these will work well for you. Some of them will work better, and some of them might not work at all for you. So just know that going in, that there's not always some magical constipation cure. Really, you do have to do that root cause work. But there are absolutely things like I'm talking about in this video that can offer immediate relief, but the longer you rely on these things for immediate relief, the less they will likely work over time. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to do that root cause work. And if you want help with that, I can help you with that. I work with people to alleviate constipation all the time. I'll talk more about what I offer at the end of this video too. So if you're interested in that, just be sure to stick around to the end or skip to the end or whatever. But anyway, so yeah, just remember that everyone's going to be a little different here. So then another thing to note is coffee. It also works as a laxative for a lot of people. I read this study once where it was like in 30% of people like stimulates bowel contractions. So I don't know if that's perfectly accurate or whatnot, but a lot of people drink their morning coffee and then have the urge to go. So coffee is absolutely something you can use to stimulate bowel movements as well. Okay, so just to kind of summarize the laxatives again, you can use Senna in the tea that I mentioned. You can make your own tea, or you can buy the traditional medicinals tea. You can also use that Cell Core supplement, the bowel mover one. But because this is Senna, you really don't want to use it more than 1 to 2-ish times a month. And you don't want to use it long term. You can also make that herbal formula that I mentioned with the softening, motility, and digestive agent essentially, and then having that bulking agent with it. And that's something that, 3-4 times a month max, really, like you don't want to be using it a lot again. So that's one other option. And then let's see. So then the magnesium, you can really use that pretty much as you want. You want to be mindful, and it's always best to talk to a practitioner just to kind of get a better sense of how much you should be taking for your situation. But you can also experiment on your own if you want. And yeah, magnesium is something you don't have to really worry about the dependence as much, and a lot of people are deficient in it anyways, so a supplement of that, as long as it's a really good quality one, is usually all right for people to take for a pretty long amount of time. And then coffee is fine as long as you're getting a good quality coffee. That is fine to take long term as well. So then let's see, I think that sums up the laxative section pretty well. So the third one I have is cooked fruit or fruit juices. And I actually learned this one from my clients, because I have a lot of clients that really like to use this when they were flaring up, especially at the beginning when we were working on those root causes and they weren't quite fully healed yet. I have a client, Peter, that likes stewed apples, and he finds that having a lot of stewed apples and having some juices is really helpful for relieving constipation. And I've also had other clients like things like prunes and really just fruit and fruit juices. But I've heard stewed apples, cooked prunes, and different kind of fruit juices can be really helpful. Usually these are a little more mineral rich. They're very hydrating. And yeah, so that can be really beneficial for drawing like fluid to the bowels and kind of speeding up motility and just moving things along quicker. So that is another thing, and that is not intense at all. So you can keep having fruits and fruit juices for a while, and that's something you don't have to worry about so much. So then the fourth tip I have for you is to massage your colon. And this is something that I actually did instinctively for a while when I had constipation. But pretty much you have to go in the direction of your colon. So I'm back up a little bit. So your colon goes from here is my right side, from the bottom, and then it goes across right here, and this is like my rib cage right here. So it goes across, and then it goes down on the left side, and then that's where it's going to connect back and things are going to exit. So when you're massaging, you want to go in this pattern. And a really beneficial massage that I've also heard is really helpful for alleviating gas in babies is called the I love you massage. So it's like an eye. That's the name for the baby one, because it's kind of cute and it's babies. But anyway, like you make an eye here. So you're on this is my left side. You go down here, and then the L is like across here, and then down there. and then you do the U. So it's up on the right side, across here, and then down there. And you can just do, I don't know, I find the fingers is helpful, but do it however it is helpful for you. But essentially just kind of massaging your colon. This is really helpful to do while you're doing an enema as well. Really helps to just kind of move things along. It moves gas along. It helps move your bowels along, so you can do it for a few minutes. Doesn't have to be anything too crazy. You can do it as you feel gas. But essentially that is something that can be a helpful tool as well. And another note on that is stretches, where you're like stressing your torso area a lot, like twisting stretches, can also be helpful too. So then, oh, and exercise, especially like runs, can really help get things moving as well. So then the fifth thing I have is to relax. One of the biggest causes of constipation is going to be stress. And when you are stressed, you're in fight or flight mode. Your body is not preparing for a bowel movement. It's preparing to fight or flee for your life. Even if you're not actually in a situation like that, that sympathetic nervous system state is pretty much pulling your nutrients, your blood, your energy out of your digestive tract into your muscles and your eyes and all these things that you need to potentially use in a survival situation. So your body is not equipped to digest food, and it's not equipped to eliminate your bowel movements either while you are stressed. So it's very, very important to relax. Also, your anus is a sphincter, and sphincters only open well when you are relaxed. So it's very, very important here. So I know I'm emphasizing how important this is, but at the same time, I don't want you to overthink it or to stress about being stressed or stressed about trying to not be stressed. So you really just want to do things that will calm you down. So I actually just made a video about managing stress like a few weeks ago. So, or actually it was last week. It was just last week. So I will link it up. I think it's this corner. I think I got this down now, but it might be that one. I will link it up there, a video on how to manage stress. But essentially, you can do some things like Epsom salt baths are nice because they're very hydrating, so that kind of helps in another way with constipation. Walks are really helpful as well, but really getting to the root of what's causing stress in your life and dealing with it, like I mentioned in that video, is going to be the most helpful. But one other thing is, when you are constipated and you want to go, you have to try at a relaxed time. So ideally, you get an urge and you go to the bathroom, and you have to try to relax and not think about it. So if you can distract yourself by reading a book or scrolling on your phone or doing some work or whatever you want to do to just kind of distract yourself and give yourself the time, the calm time to go, that will be super, super helpful as well. So then, I got into number 6 early. So number 6 is give yourself relaxed time to go. I already started that. So when you have the urge, like I said, you also want to sit in a squat-like position, ideally. So you can just squat on the toilet. You can kind of sit on it with your knees kind of up, or you can buy one of those squatty potty things that you put the stools next to your toilet. Whatever works for you. You don't have to do it, but it is very, very helpful. It helps basically to align your body in the position you would naturally poop, especially out in nature when you're just going to squat on the ground. So that can absolutely make a difference. So it's worth trying, especially if you're really uncomfortable. Let's see. So try for like at least 15 minutes and maybe even longer if you're really struggling. You have to give yourself enough time to go. Sometimes you sit there for a while and like 20 minutes goes by and then you get your bowel movement in. So if you have the time and you're relaxed, it's really worth it to give your body more of an opportunity to go. And if you don't go, don't get too stressed. Don't think about it too much. Just kind of wait for another urge to try again. Let's see. Also, don't ignore your urges. I know sometimes life is going to happen and you're going to have to do things and you won't be able to poop when you need to. But as much as you can, don't ignore those urges, because your body, it'll get a little stressed and it won't want to give you another urge, and it'll just make things challenging. So try to go whenever you get those urges. And if you aren't getting any urges at all, you need to like you need to get your body into that habit again. So how you do that is each morning or whatever time you usually have a bowel movement or works well for you. For most people, it's the morning. Spend at least 15 minutes just sitting on the toilet, giving yourself the opportunity, ideally around the same time or like the same time in your schedule, like after breakfast or something like that. Give yourself the opportunity, keep doing it every day, and eventually your body will get the hint, okay, this is the time that we're supposed to have our bowel movement. It's kind of similar to how when you eat around the same times or you go to bed around the same times, your body starts to act like a clock in that manner. So that's really helpful. Coffee is super helpful too. So if you kind of lost the urge, drinking coffee can help. If you're already drinking coffee and you lost the urge, like just try this method of sitting every morning and that'll be helpful. And then number 7 is get back to any healthy habits that you've lost. So pretty much like when I was healing of my constipation, oh yeah, I should have mentioned this earlier. If you don't know, I had constipation for over 10 years from like age 5 to 18, and I would have about 2 or 3 bowel movements a week on average. And I overcame that, and now I have a bowel movement almost every day. Usually every day and sometimes twice a day, and they are full, they're relieving, they're healthy. They're like the 4 on the Bristol stool chart, not rocky, not runny, just good bowel movements. So anyway, when I was in kind of the healing process, I would notice that like when I would travel, sometimes something would get a little off and that would kind of bring back the constipation. So if that's where you're at, if you're in this healing process and you're like, oh no, it's coming up again, I have something to do, I need to do something, try to pick up on any little habits that you've let slide and reincorporate those. So like if you're traveling and you're like haven't been eating quite as good, get strict on your diet again. Or if you haven't been like sleeping or resting enough, you know, get stricter on that again. Or if you haven't been drinking enough water or you haven't been exercising, whatever it is, our body is like all these parts in our body are connected, all these habits are connected. So if you notice there's anything you kind of slipped on, bring that back, and that will really help with your bowel movements. And then finally, start addressing the root causes and get a long-term plan going, because that's what you really need. All these things I mentioned, you know, some of them will probably help you a lot. I hope they do, but they're not something that you can rely on long term. I've talked to so many people where these things have worked for them for a few months, for a year or whatever, and then all of a sudden they just stop working. It's because these aren't fixing the root cause. They are helpful, but they're kind of in a way band-aid solutions. You really do need to fix that root cause. And also some of these can get tedious. Like you probably really want to be just getting up, going about your day, at some point having the urge, going in the bathroom, in about 5 minutes having your bowel movement, moving on with your day and just not thinking about it at all. I'm pretty sure that's probably where you want to be. That's where I'm at now, and I'm honestly grateful. Like every single day I'm really grateful because I know how uncomfortable it was before. So if that's where you want to be, you just really have to address those root causes. And because I don't want to make this video too long, I will share all about that next week. So I'm going to be going over the root causes for constipation, what are the main things that cause it, and then I'm also going to be going over my long-term plan, my long-term solution that I recommend for healing those root causes of constipation and getting your body in a place where you are regularly having consistent, healthy bowel movements and not having to think about it. So be sure to check out that next week. Also, if you're watching this like way in the future, I'll just link that video below too after it comes out. So if you want to check it out and it's way in the future, then you can check that link below. And before I go, I also want to let you guys know a little bit more about what I offer with my program. So like I mentioned earlier, I struggled with constipation for over a decade. I had IBS, I had gas, I had bloating, and all these gut issues, and it sucked. But I figured out how to heal my gut. I studied this. I went to college for this. I studied on my own. I started working with people. I started helping them with their gut issues. And I've really grown passionate about helping people because I know how uncomfortable it is, and you don't have to have that discomfort of the abdominal pain and the bloating and the worry of, am I going to have a bowel movement today? Or if you have the opposite side of thing, if you have diarrhea, if you're like, oh no, I might have a bowel movement at the wrong time. I just know how much stress and how much burden that is on your lifestyle, and you don't have to have it that way. So basically what I do in my program is I work with you to figure out the exact root causes of your constipation, of your gut issues, whatever it is you are going through, and then we create a roadmap for you to address that root cause. I also have you work through my gut healing protocol. So I help you to heal your gut lining. I help you to balance your microbiome. I help you to get all your nutrients in, get your digestive system functioning properly, and really help you to nourish your body, nourish your gut, and make sure that all the systems are working together efficiently and you are working like an efficient machine. Everything is going well and everything is functioning optimally, and you are feeling your best, you are energized, and you are just the healthiest you can be. So basically that's kind of the process I take you through. We figure out your root causes, and then we work on getting your body working absolutely optimally and not having to deal with any of these gut issues anymore. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, I would love to talk to you more about that and see what is going on for you with your gut issues, what your health goals are, and see if I can help you with that. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go ahead and book a call with me. I will put a link down below, and we can talk more about that. I can share more about my program, and you can see if it's a good fit for you. So anyways, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it really helpful. And if you could just give it a like or subscribe or share this with someone who might find it helpful, or comment or anything like that, I really, really appreciate it. But honestly, if you just liked this video yourself, I appreciate that as well. Anyways, I will see you soon.